Sirens, Slammers, and Service, a podcast for female first responders by female first responders. My name is Nikki Cluche, and I will be your host. As a former correctional officer in Alberta for almost 2 decades and the founder of Blue Line Fitness Testing, which provides law enforcement fitness testing and first responder wellness workshops, I started this podcast as a way for female first responders to share the trials, tribulations, and triumphs of their daily work. I want to showcase the unique perspectives, skill sets, and personalities that women bring to a first responder career and share their stories. So get ready to laugh your ass off, learn a whole bunch, and be inspired by some pretty badass women. Let's go. Welcome back, guys. Oh my God, today is an extremely special episode. Not only am I joined by an absolutely rad guest, Sue Harvey, but this year, I'm taking part in Podcasthon. Podcasthon is a movement to release a massive and international wave of inspiring content dedicated to raising awareness for a huge number of charities worldwide. This is the 3rd edition of this event, and it's supported by Pod News and Acast. And today, we are sharing not only, like I said, Sue Harvey's journey, but we are also sharing information about her charity, which is Driving Foreward. Driving Foreward works on having first responders train like athletes and utilizing sport as a tool to support the mental health of our first responders. So welcome today, Sue. How are you?
Can't complain, living the dream, right?
That's awesome. I'm so happy to have you. And I had said before we started recording, I've been meaning to have you on for basically since we started the podcast, and everything just gets busy, and then we both get busy, and then, there's stuff going on. But I was really happy because Janet Wizawati, who was a previous guest on our podcast, actually was like, I just had lunch with Sue and you need to have her on the podcast. And I was like, God damn, yes, I do. I need to reach back out. So got a hold of you and you were on board. And again, worked out perfectly because we can talk about Driving Forward as part of this Podcasthon episode. And so thank you for being on the show. Thanks for joining us. Essentially have started this Driving Forward charity, and you're sharing and spreading awareness. I see you at all of the events. You're a big key part of the Alberta First Responders Association. So tell me how your kind of journey has evolved. How did you get into all of this? What was your kind of, movement through this?
Well, so after leaving the Army, I came back up to Canada, and I realized really quickly that I needed to find a career because I was still a small child. And I was stopped at a light and I looked over and there was an Abbotsford police vehicle right next to me. And I said, hey, I should be a police officer. I took that test in high school. It said 3 things. It said military, police, or a lawyer. I've already done the military, knockout police. We're good. My mom would love for me to be a lawyer, but too bad. Sorry, Mom. And so I applied, and 10 months later, I was at the RCMP Academy depot there in Saskatchewan. And so I started my journey as a police officer. And that took me, I spent half my career in Surrey, a very, very tame area that nobody sees on the news on a regular basis. So I got a lot of experience there. And shortly after my first daughter was born, we moved up north, and I took on an Indigenous policing role up in northern BC, which was just transformative for me. And I'm still in touch. I created a lot of new family members in that posting. And so it was really neat. And then I came over to Alberta, and I spent 6 years here in Alberta before ultimately having to take medical discharge in 2021 as a result of my post-traumatic stress. One of the things that I found is, working in a major center like Surrey, the one benefit that we have, even though we are seeing such highly traumatic events, I go home, I drive the hour home, and I'm living in a completely different place than where I'm working, versus once I started going into small town, especially someone that cares so much about their community and is so involved in their community, anytime something happens, it impacts you very deeply. And so So I had a really hard time with that. And so that took a large toll on my mental health. Unfortunately, we're reaching out for resources, and something that we still get told on a regular basis, just ask for help, ask for help, ask for help. But then we were, as a team, my detachment commander, we're on the command team, we're asking for help, and we're getting told no, we're not coming up. And like, what is happening? And so we had an entire command team that was affected by post-traumatic stress, and we knew the harm that was being done, and yet when we're asking for the resources, we weren't getting those resources. We were told no. And then, keep in mind, we're northern isolated community. We have limited resources. So I just kept going. I just said, well, there's nobody else. I need to work. I need to be there, keep sacrificing myself, even though I knew I was getting worse and worse and worse. And it got to the point where one day, the Sunday before I go back to work on Monday morning, I just kept getting a headache, and it kept getting worse and worse. I kept getting grumpier and grumpier. And then Monday morning, when I'm supposed to be walking into the office, my head's in the toilet because my body has shut down and I'm so sick. Right. And it's because of everything. I just got hit back to back to back, and my body's like, you cannot take this anymore.
Yeah.
And it was a huge impact on me, because it really, even though I didn't realize it quite at the time, it showed me how much our body actually speaks to us when we're stubborn and don't want to listen to it. And because logically, I knew that when people were saying, hey, how are you? And then I would just verbal diarrhea, everything, like not very numbly, recite all the crap that I've just been through. And now I'm making this completely random person cry without realizing it and without intention by any means, right? But it was just, it would happen. And then, so I knew logically that what I'd been through was horrible.
Yeah.
And the fact that there was multiple incidents back to back was not helping. But it wasn't until my body shut down on me and said, no, you're out of the game. Take a knee. You got to sort it out, that it really made an impact. And so from there, I actually got pregnant, and I was on light duties for a bit, so it made it easier to work. But when I was on mat leave, same thing. I realized that as the months went by and as I get closer to return date, I was stressing out. And once again, I'm reaching out, and I'm like, I need access to mental health supports. I need this, I need that. I need something. I need help. And twice, I get off the phone, and it just tells you how scrambled my brain was, because I had that conversation, and I know I asked for help, and I know I told them what was going on. And then I hang up the phone, and I'm like, I didn't get anything. I was just told to keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
You're like, what I'm doing isn't working.
Yeah.
What I'm doing is not. No, that's why I'm calling you. And then it took so many more weeks to get the courage to call again. I call again, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna make sure. And sure enough, the same thing happens, because my brain was just all over the place. And I get off the phone, and again, I'm like, nothing came from that phone call. And then finally one night, in a moment of desperation, I left a super long voicemail and didn't get a call back. And it was very fortuitous of me to come across a post on Facebook for a treatment program out east. And I reached out because I'm like, what the hell? Like
Mm-hmm.
nothing else is working. Might as well reach out and see what happens.
Yeah.
I got more help in the next 48 hours and more support in the next 48 hours than I had, the months leading up to it and asking for it. Right.
Yeah.
And so I ended up going to a week-long treatment out in Ontario on my own dime because the RCMP wouldn't pay for it. And it allowed me to, one, build up my toolkit a little bit in terms of grounding techniques and so on. And it wasn't until I got back that I realized that I was having panic attacks.
Mm-hmm.
But instead of me realizing that I was having panic attacks, I would just get angry. Right.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I'm like, what's happening? But again, that little bit of awareness that I had earned over that week had helped me identify it and be able to respond to it. And then, we were talking off air that getting to that point where you're like, I'm going to start throat punching people if I don't go take a breath. I realized how quickly I was jumping from 0 to like rage. And to the point where, I was visiting family shortly after this. This was probably a really bad idea. But, so I had to take lots of walks, but it scared me and made me really dive into the fact that I need to work on this. I need to utilize these tools. And I started digging deeper into mindfulness. I started digging deeper into stress, navigating stress and how it affects your body and everything and how we can utilize our systems to our benefit to mitigate the effects of stress and so on and so forth. And so fast forward to 2019 and I'm back at work. I'm back on the road. I actually got promotion during this time, and yet we go, so I'm doing good, like on paper, but then we go and we have to evacuate the town. And I have to take my pregnant wife and my 2 kids and say, see ya, and shove them out the door. And then I got to stay and work. And I was on night shift, so I wasn't sleeping. And they forgot to feed us, and they forgot that we didn't have access to a grocery store and all these things, right? So like our basic needs weren't being taken care of. And it played, you mix that with some post-traumatic stress and it started playing games with my brain. And it got to the point where one night, or rather one morning, I wasn't consciously suicidal, but I could physically feel where my firearm was in the room. And that scared the crap out of me. And I had a friend in my head saying, you need to sleep. And I couldn't turn my phone off because the fire was right there. So if my phone rang while I was sleeping, it meant the world was on fire. My mom had a way of calling me every day at noon, even though I told her to sleep. So I would bolt out of bed because I thought the world was on fire. So what I did was I texted, I said, like, my door's open, because, it was zombie apocalypse and there was nobody around. So I'm like, doors open, come get me if the world burns down. And I'm turning my phone off. And so I took a sleeping pill, which I don't like doing. And I actually got some sleep. And then when I woke up later that afternoon, I forced myself to get out of the house. I forced myself to do something. I'm like, I need to the house was too quiet. I ended up having to close the doors for my kids' room. I had 2 young girls. So the house is never that quiet.
Yep.
And so it was just very surreal. And so I went golfing, and keep in mind, like I'd done all that training. I got those tools when I was in Ontario. I did all that, but I was still struggling to put them into practice because once you add real life, real emotions, like real time, it's very difficult, right? So I went out, and while I was golfing, I realized that one, I was feeling better, just simply being outside, moving. I was walking because it was closed, right? And so I couldn't get a cart, so I'm walking. And it got to the point where I was on the 10th tee box, and I look up, and you look behind me to the south, and it's like Mad Max, apocalypse, the world is ending, sky, like so bad. And then there's a distinct line in the sky above me, and I turn north, and it's nothing but clear blue skies, just brilliant sunshine and all these things. And I'm like, dude, like, you couldn't have sent me a memo here, universe. Like, you had to make me, like, wade through the shit first before because I realized, I'm like, this is it. This is my choice.
Yep.
And, on that golf course that day, I was able to experience all the emotions that we deal with in day-to-day life, but in a safe environment. And so I'm like, this is the perfect friggin' practice ground. I'm like, you don't even have to be good at golf.
Yeah.
You don't even have to golf a day in your life.
Yeah.
But like, it's a walking mindfulness exercise, and you can use it. And so I started playing with it for the rest of the round, and like the change that was made in that moment was just so massive as a light bulb went off. Now, everybody's like, okay, well, the light bulb went off, so you're automatically cured. No, that's not how that works.
Yeah.
But it's a tool to be able to practice and to be able to bring yourself and ground yourself again. So that's how Driving Forward was started. And since then, it's been like you know how important it is in my life and in my mental health when my wife even says, you need to go golfing.
Yeah.
Right? Because if I don't have it, like even later today, I'm going to indoor golf, and I played in an indoor golf tournament this weekend. So in the winter, yeah, I'm not outside, but I'm still doing the movements. I'm still doing exercises, just in an indoor facility. And it's made all the difference. And especially since retiring in 2021, that's a whole story in itself, because I got in an argument with them about my service dog, and they ended up not treating me well in that battle. And it got to the point where I had to decide, I'm like, the benefit of being aware and experiencing what I have with my body shutting down me, it got to the point where I'm going to have a heart attack at some point if I don't step back. And the amount of stress that the organization put me under, because I was advocating for my own mental health, which is ironic in itself since mental health is top priority. And I think the last straw was me as a detachment commander responding to a homicide, being the arresting officer in that scenario, having young group of junior members where like 80% of my staff were under 2 years service, even more than that under 1 year.
Yeah.
And at least 2 of them under 6 months. And they've already all dealt with these individuals, and now one was dead. And I called, and I said, I'm like, I need mental health resources up here. I need critical incident debrief. I need something, right? Like, if it doesn't mess with them today, it's going to mess with them down the road, because at some point they're going to ask themselves, whether consciously or not, could I have done something different? I was originally said, okay, yeah, on it. And then I get a call the next day, and it's my supervisor, who Yeah, he says to me, so by all accounts, it wasn't that bad. Why do you need these mental health resources?
Thanks, man.
And as someone who's lost someone that I love to violence, I had a double murder suicide at my last post after we moved and lost a lovely lady who was very important to me, and her daughter who I coached basketball and was in my and all these things. She was my daughter's babysitters. We lost them to violence. You know, I'm like, this is spoken by someone who has never been on the other side of a homicide.
Yep.
And, you know, like, who I said to him, I'm like, define not that bad.
Yep.
Someone has died at the hands of someone else. Like, how is this? And I'm like, this is going to mess with my team. Like, this is not cool.
Yeah.
And we need something. And he's like, well, who's better to say that, you know, it's not their fault than you? And I'm like, are you kidding me? I'm their boss.
Yeah.
Like, no matter how open my door is and no matter how unjudgmental I am, I'm still their boss.
Yep.
And, you know, like, you have these kids coming out of the academy and they're still scared shitless to talk to a fucking sergeant.
Yep.
Like,
Yep.
Right. And you know, I'm the one that kicks back their files and tells them to like, I am not the one for this. No matter how much I care for them, no matter how much I'm there to support them, there's still that barrier of my role and their role. And this is not cool. And so then I reached out to the peer-to-peer coordinator and was told that health services shut them down too. So they weren't allowed to come.
Oh my God.
And yeah, so at that point, I'm like, I was getting massive migraines every day. I'd drive home. I'd have to pull over to the side of the road and puke on the other side of my police truck.
Yep.
Because just my body was shutting down on me. And so it got to the point where the doctor's like, you're done. Like, you can't do this. You should see the letter she wrote, because the RCMP's like, you clearly want you just want to resign. It's not a medical one. Or how can you justify that's a medical one? My doctor sent a letter saying, are you kidding me?
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
Like,
totally.
She's like, I have never seen someone work so hard to get better and to manage their symptoms. And you have thwarted her at every stop.
Yep.
Every single thing that she tries to put into place, you have said, nope, shut it down. And you're telling me that she doesn't deserve a medical discharge. And ultimately, it wasn't the initial traumas. It was that sanctuary trauma that ended up, you know, forcing me to end my career. I was at 13 years service. I was a sergeant by 10 years service. And I never tried to get rank by any means, but it's just people said, hey, you need to apply for this job. So I go and apply for that job. And then I do work there. Oh, you need to apply for this job. Okay, fine. I'll apply for that. And I get it. Right. And I love my communities and I love my job and I had so much more to offer, but I needed to be here. I have 3 girls. I have a wife. I needed to be here for my family. And with, like, it took me a good year or so after I retired to really come down and understand the level of vibration of stress that I was at. And I'm not going to lie, if they were to call today and say, hey, you want your job back? I'd be like, it would be a very hard decision to say no, because I love my fucking job and I'm good at my job, but I can't.
Yeah.
Because it'll kill me.
Yeah.
And also now my entire purpose in life is to advocate on behalf of members that can't be as candid, and raise awareness and work with agencies. Be like, you don't understand that there are key people that are causing so much harm that you are losing incredible members.
Yes.
And we can change this. Like, I'm not mad. I'm not angry. I'm not like, I'm flat out disappointed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And I wish it didn't happen, but I also can't change it. So what I can do now is help members. And so my entire purpose with Driving Forward is to help members, whether they be in their first year or their 35th, finish their career.
Yeah.
Because I know the identity crisis. I know the mourning period. I know the grief of having to lose your career early. And it's not cool. And now I don't want other people to have to experience that. So I want them to be the healthiest and safest that they can in that environment. And that's where Driving Forward comes in.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Blue Line Fitness Testing is a premier law enforcement fitness testing and training center based in Edmonton. Specializing in helping individuals prepare for the physical demands of a career in law enforcement, we offer comprehensive fitness evaluations, specialized training programs, and classes tailored to meet the unique needs of our clients. Our facility hosts a range of classes and are committed to fostering a supportive and empowering environment where clients can achieve their fitness goals. Our team includes experienced trainers who bring specialized expertise in law enforcement, self-defense, personal training, and rehabilitation. We engage through our community through challenges, events, and our podcast, and we are dedicated to helping individuals succeed in their fitness journeys and career aspirations in law enforcement. Are you looking to get started with your career? Come see Blue Line Fitness Testing, and we'll get you there. Like, unbelievable. There's so many things. Like, I've just been like writing notes and like just. You've touched on so many things. Like, the first one, I think for me that really resonated is that sense of betrayal from when you reach out for help and you're like, okay, I've plucked up the courage here. You're telling me that I can ask for help and I'm going to do it. I've been battling this by myself for a little while, but I know I can't do it. So I'm going to reach out for help like you told me to. And then it's like, fuck you. Actually, no.
What you doing?
Yeah. And you're like,
you're spiraling great.
Yeah. So then, like you said, because your brain is so scrambled, you go back and you go, okay, well, maybe it's not actually that bad. Like maybe I am actually coping pretty good. Yeah. And so like, maybe I just got to double down on the coping strategies, double down on the yoga, double down on the meditation. Okay. I could do that. And then same thing. I did exactly the same thing. Get back into work. Okay. We're going to go back to work. We're going to morning meditation and we're good. And then again, shit happens and you start to spiral and you go, okay, like I don't think I'm doing well, but like I don't got time to not do well. So we got to fucking keep going. So that alone. And then again, like, because you said it at the end, right? Like, I mean, members that are going to reach out, you reached out, what, 3, 4, 5 times for help? How many people do that? Not very fucking many.
If you count like my leadership team reaching out on our behalf,
yes,
and me reaching out on the behalf of my team, like we're talking over 10 times.
Yeah.
Where
most
not
people,
once
did
they respond.
And most people pluck up the courage once. They do it once. And then if they get told fuck off or no, we can't help you, or oh, sorry, oh, is it really that bad? You're never fucking going back. You are never, ever, ever going to go back because you were told, is it really that bad? And like my blood boiled when you told me that they said to you, well, like it wasn't really that bad.
who the fuck are you to judge what a person feels is bad enough or not bad enough? So if you are listening and you are in a leadership role, you are in a management role, you are a fucking top dog somewhere, it is not on you based on your experiences, based on your background, based on what you fucking dealt with and your coping strategies to decide whether or not a scenario is bad enough, in quotation marks, to need a fucking critical incident response team, to need peer-to-peer. It is not on you. If somebody has the balls to reach out and say, I need to fucking help, you give them the fucking help. You give them the fucking help, whether you think they can suck it up, buttercup, or not, you give them the fucking help because they've plucked up the courage to ask. And there's 100 other members that have not plucked up the courage to ask. So like that again, that just, and you touched on rage, that rage of like, and it scares you because you're out of control. They're like, I've talked about it in previous episodes. There's a tiny voice in the back of the head that's going, you're acting like a fucking crazy person. You're being a fucking psycho. And you know it, but you cannot stop the anger and the like vitriol that's coming out of you. Yeah. And for me, same thing. It was seeing my kids cower from me and the look of absolute like terror in their face when I would fucking green out about something stupid, totally stupid. And the back of my brain is going
completely inconsequential. Like
100%. You're being a fucking psycho. Look at how scared your kids are of you. Why are you freaking out about the fucking mess on the table? Like, stop, but you can't stop because the lid has now popped off that pot and you are fucking crazy out loud, and your kids or your loved ones or your family are the victims of it. And so, like that, again, that totally resonated. I was like, holy crap. And then the choice, because I feel like when we get to that point, like you said, and you're standing on the golf course and you're looking one way and you're looking the other way, and it is like again, like bing, light bulb goes off, you get struck by lightning. It is like the most clear point of your life. For me, it was where I went, oh yeah, I like, this is it. I'm standing on the precipice and I can either go this way and continue down this shitty path, or I can go this way. And if I don't, I'm going to die. Like, I'm going to die. I'm either going to commit suicide.
It's a scary decision.
100%. It is the scariest. I've said this before.
No fucking clue what that looks like. You know what the shit looks like.
Yep.
Right?
It's terrifying.
We can deal. We're trained to deal with shit. Right? But this other path, this unknown path, you're like, fuck, I don't know, but we're just going to roll with it. Right. Yep. And that's why, that's why sometimes because we're stubborn ass mofos, when it comes to our mental health, we're given that choice multiple times and we keep choosing the shit because we know the shit.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And then we just hope that these conversations that we're having today and the reason why I share all of this stuff is that something clicks and that the next time that opportunity arises, even if it's just listening to this, that we start moving even slightly into that other direction.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
From there.
Yeah. I think the other thing I wanted to kind of touch on too was you'd mentioned your service dog. And so I know she's a big part of your life. I know she's one of the amazing tools that you have that now can help you kind of move forward out of this. And again, I was the same. After I left corrections, it was at least a year before I came down. And I actually was just talking to my husband about it last night. So it's so interesting that you bring it up. Is I said, I feel so weird being this calm. Like it's weird to me that I don't get like worked up about things anymore, that I'm just like, well, whatever, Yeah. And he's like, yeah, that's what normal people feel like, Nikki. And I was like, really? Like, really? And he was like, yeah. And I mean, like, I'm a high energy person anyways, like I always have been. So I've always had like big emotions, big responses to things. But like, I don't have that like immediate like flip switch anymore, switch flip. Yeah. To me, it's like, now I'm like, yeah, I don't give a fuck about that. Like, I'm not, like, I'm not going to react to that. Or like, you know what? That fucking pisses me off. And normally I would be like, fly off the handle. That fucking pisses me off. But I'm like, yeah, go fuck yourself. I'm moving on. Like, I'm not wasting my energy on that, right? But it's like, and my husband Kelly, he's like, that's what normal people do, Nikki. And I was like, huh, look at me 5 years down the road becoming normal. Wow.
I'd be like, well, you don't need to brag about it.
Right? Shut the fuck up, okay? Like, but yeah, so tell me.
Can't you just accept my win? Come on now.
Right. Don't you just be happy that I'm not a crazy person anymore, okay? Thanks. But yeah, so tell me, because I do want to save time for Driving Foreward because I really want to get into this and the work that you've been doing, but tell me about your service dog and how that kind of came about.
So originally, the service dog that I had when I was with the RCMP, I had to train myself. And just because where I lived, a lot of the organizations I reached out to, they're like, you live too far away. We can't help you with training or anything like that. And so I trained her myself. And then I was introduced to an organization out of Edmonton, Courageous Companions, that works with military and first responders to be able to get them service dogs. And so they helped me certify her and so on and so forth. So we did that. But what happened was essentially, this is where, that retirement piece is a whole other ball, but essentially they ignored my doctor's orders multiple times saying that I can be in uniform. I just need to have access to my service dog. And so at one point, after being told this multiple times, they put me fully operational, but they ignored the access to my service dog part. And I was threatened that if I brought my service dog into the office, then I would be punished essentially. So, but then it was COVID, it was all these things. So all these big things were happening. So I'm out of the house for, anywhere from 12 to 18 hours a day. I don't have time to continue the training with my service dog. So I'm separated. And so it actually created a behavioral issue for my service dog, so that afterwards we tried to train it out of her. She became reactive to other dogs around me, like defensive to other dogs around me after that, because she lost me for 4 months, of me working nonstop and her not being able to be with me and do her job. And so we tried to train it out of her for a good year. And eventually she had to be retired. And so my sister has her down in Montana now. And so I had about a year where I didn't have a service dog. And then I got a call from Courageous Companions. And it was actually a friend of mine, another retired Mountie that's on the board, that said, we have a dog for you. And I'm like, no way. And it's so good. And so I got matched with Willow, who's my service dog now. And John, the head of Courageous Companions, I went and stayed at his place for the week. And he's like, I have never seen a pair match, like just bond so quickly. Like you guys she's 100% focused on you. And even her trainer, who I go visit all the time, if I'm there, her eyes are on me, versus when he's there, she used to be focused on him, but nope, now and she's so great. And she's been a rock star. Like she's got fans. We went to volunteer at the LPGA event this past year in Ohio. And so, she has some of the top female golfers in the world that are like, love her and scratching her belly and all these things. And I'm like, you have no idea how amazing this is. I'm like, they're not scratching my belly. They don't even know my name, but they know Willow's name. And it's just so cool. And, with the big screen at the Canucks game, and she has been such a game changer for me. And she allows me to do pretty much everything that I do outside of this house because she grounds me so much and she has my back. Do I still have panic attacks? Yeah. I share it because, again, people, we're not kind to one another, and we're not understanding to one another. And so when I'm asking for help, especially there's one time at an airport, I was asking for help and I was treated so poorly, and just bad things were happening. And so she's trying desperately to let me know that she's there, but she's also trying desperately to get the attention of like the hundreds of people around us. And she doesn't whine normally, and she's whining and trying to get people's attention, and nobody came. But I was able to just work through, and having her with me, I sat down, she's on me, she's just grounding me, doing the deep pressure therapy on me. So I'm able to recover a lot more quickly versus previously, whereas if I had an attack, I would get a massive headache and I'd be out for the rest of the day, period. Like I need to sleep. And now with her, I can, about 20 or 30 minutes gets me through the harsh portion of it. And then I'm functional. I'm not perfect by any means. I'm still exhausted, but I'm functional. I can still go on. And she's my backup. And, to have that backup there is incredible. And this year, especially, I've been avoiding, the fun things that I used to do in my previous life, like go to hockey games, like go to events like Cirque du Soleil, like go to these places. And this year I just said, you know what? Fuck it. Like I'm doing well. Am I perfect? Fuck no. When have I ever been perfect? Like, come on. Yeah. But I'm going to go. I'm going to challenge myself. And yeah, it takes a lot out of me, but at the same time, it's because of her that I'm able to go and do these things and feel confident doing them. And, even in the large crowd of people, as we're herding out during, intermissions and stuff like that, she's guiding me and she's helping me get through to where we need to get through. And then when we're there, she hangs out. Right. And she's my walking presence exercise, and she makes me get outside. She makes me exercise her nonstop, which is good for me because even when it's minus 40 out, I'm getting outside, and I know how important that fresh air is for our mental health. So she just has such a positive impact for me in so many ways. And my mom has dementia and she's a retired Crown Counsel, talk about trauma. And she's had many years with some of the toughest cases, and she was on like the legal team for the National Inquiry for the Missing and Murdered Women. And so she's heard a lot and seen a lot. And she's had a very quick decline into dementia to the point where she doesn't remember who I am or who my sister is at times, right? But so I go and I've been visiting quite a bit, and I love it because I'll take her out and, I'll take her to these events with me, and we'll go and do these things. And my service dog, when she knows that I'm good, she'll go and sit next to my mom. And she grounds my mom. And so she's on kind of double duty, and it's the most precious thing ever because she's taking care of her for me, because it helps too. Like it helps. So I don't have to worry about her wandering off on me the moment I'm not looking and stuff like that. Right. So she's helped keeping her focused. And so, this dog, this beautiful yellow lab that is a fetch enthusiast is just the most incredible gift that me and my family could have. And she helps me get through a lot. So it's pretty darn cool.
I love that. Yeah. Like you can just hear it in your voice, right? How much safer you feel and how much, like, again, you're able to go back out into the world and do the things that you want to do, because none of us choose to want to be at home and be angry. Like nobody wants to be like that, right? Like nobody wants to be like that. And so it's to hear that that's one of the key things too, is just, yeah, I love that. I do have a question for you, because I feel like this is something that our listeners, not all of our listeners are first responders, or, like even in a, like a law enforcement role or anything like that. What should somebody do if they see a service dog alerting on somebody that's obviously having issues? What is something as a layperson, if I see, you are in the airport and I notice that this dog is whining and I notice that the person is looking distressed, what is something that we can do as like a bystander, as a layperson?
So because there's so many different types of service dogs, right? Mine says on there PTSD service dog. And the reason why I do put that on there is because if I'm having a panic attack, chances are I'm going to be nonverbal for a while. Mm-hmm. I'm probably going to be in a ball on the floor in a hot mess and nonverbal. And in that case, all I need is space. Mm-hmm. I need somebody to help hold space. Mm-hmm. And in that scenario that I was talking about in the airport, like I had my 5-year-old daughter with me. It was just me and my daughter and my service dog, right? So luckily my kids know, and it's unfortunate that they have to know, but if I'm in that state, they stay right next to me and until I recover. And so holding space, but there's other dogs, whether they be diabetic dogs or, any other type of medical alert dogs, they usually have something written on there. Mm-hmm. But the first thing is to ask, what can I do to help? If they don't respond, then look at the dog. Okay, what kind of dog is this? Does it say? Right? And if that doesn't identify, then hold space. Are they breathing? Are they right? Are they conscious? And so like I'm breathing and conscious, I'm just a hot mess, then, just wait and hold space. Yeah. Right. Obviously, if they're unconscious, then, proceed. Right. Yeah. And try and look for a medical alert bracelet and so on and so forth. But, if a service dog, especially if you see somebody in distress and a service dog is trying to get the attention, then that means that person is in need of help of some sort. And the number one I can say is if we are conscious, if we are breathing and we're not talking to you, you just need to hold space. Don't crowd, because some of us have, especially if you see PTSD, not to be afraid of them by any means, but just don't crowd them. Just give them space so that they can get through what they're going through, and then they can talk to you. Right. And thank you. And, I remember I had an incident at Service Canada, and the lady behind me had my back and she's like, I'm going to help you and we'll walk through. And I was so incredibly appreciative of that. And, the fact is that I don't like having these things happen in public, oddly enough, or, makes sense. It's the only place they do happen is in public. Of course. Because, in the safety of my home, why do I need that? But at the same time, I deserve to be able to go out into public as well. And so the more that we're kind to one another and compassionate to one another, the better off we are. And I say to my kids, because, I have to speak at Pink Shirt Day event tomorrow. And yeah, I know when somebody's mean, when somebody's nasty, our default is to want to like punch them in the face. That's a fight, flight, or freeze, right? you're injuring me, whether it be physically, mentally, emotionally. So I'm going to fight, flight, or freeze. Whereas if we want to show that we are the higher person, if we want to tap into our higher functioning, which is what separates us from a scared animal, we respond with love. Right? And people are like, yeah, but if they're complete assholes, then why would you respond with love? And be like, because they need it. And the words that they're saying to me, they have no power unless I give them the power. It's my judgment of what they're saying that hurts me, not their actual words. Right? And so yeah, so if we could be more compassionate and love each other more, we'd be in a whole different situation.
When people are lashing out, they're lashing out because they're hurt. And so they need that love. They need extra love. Even if in your mind, you're like, oh, you're such a piece of shit. You're such a piece of shit. But okay, you need love. So I'm going to try and give you a little bit of extra love and compassion, right? So yeah. Okay, so let's jump into what Driving Forward is doing, what you've got coming up. I know you always have amazing things, events and things like that. So so A, what's coming up? B, how can we help? How can we get involved? What can we do to support you, to support Driving Forward, and to support our members?
Okay, so a couple things is my schedule is going to be dropping at the end of March for our different clinics. We're looking at the Edmonton area, specifically Leduc Golf Course usually hosts us. And what to expect is pretty much, like I've said many times, we are stubborn. We're stubborn as fuck. You're like, oh, I want to come learn mindfulness. Bullshit. Nobody wants to come and learn mindfulness. But if I can incorporate it in sports, and like I said, we use golf, but that doesn't mean you have to be a golfer. You don't have to be fucking Tiger Woods, right? Like, I've had people that have never swung a club a day in their life. It's not about the golf. Some people say, hey, this is fucking awesome. I'm going to pick up golfing. And then they become diehards, which is great because they're using it for mental health. But the reason why we use it is because all of us have some form of routine that we do, whether it be weightlifting, cycling, swimming. And these are all different exercises that we can use, whether you're playing hockey in beer league or swimming at lunch hour or whatever. And like for example, I use swimming for breathing exercises. So I do diaphragmic breathing for a chunk of my laps because it's a challenge. It's a mental challenge and it forces my body to relax. And then all of a sudden I'm swimming with less, effort. And I try to go fast and guess what? I start losing my breath again. Right? But it's not for competition. It's for the mental resilience, the building that resilience and going on from there. So we have these 2-day comprehensive courses where we really dig deep into mindfulness based practices, a little bit of sports psychology. You look at all the elite athletes that are going to special forces training to gain that mental edge, when conversely, not all of us have that special forces training. We don't have that level of training. So what are the rest of our frontline workers doing? And so if we can utilize that same mindset of, okay, guess what? In sports, it's a very dynamic scenario. Yes, it's not life or death on a regular basis, but if we can use that to train our mind to be more clear in high stress situations, then we are better off. Our body's responding the same in terms of the stress of, hitting a ball in front of 30 people or, having 30 people with their phones out on you while you're trying to,
Make an arrest.
exactly. Right.
Yep.
And so the systems are the same. So why not train them, but in a safe environment? And so that's what we do. And so our 2-day comprehensive course goes deep into mindfulness-based practices, sports psychology, and then mix in a little bit of stoicism. When I talk about the fact that it's not the scenario itself, it's my judgment of that scenario. That's Marcus Aurelius. That's ancient Stoic philosophy, right? And you think about all the crap that they went through in their time, and they're able to have these profound insights. Well, it really helps switch the perspective. So we go a lot into that. And then there's also a half-day course, because guess what? We're busy. And so it's hard for, especially organizations. They're like, well, I'm not going to send you to go play golf for 2 days, and be like, that tells me right there that you don't get it at all. And I always say, send me your most stubborn people when it comes to mental health, and then ask them how they respond. And the experiences have been just incredible. And so we have this half-day course. It's called Athletic Resiliency Training. So there are art clinics. And so we're bringing those out this year. It's just 100% on the driving range. So we give homework for those that want to do the homework, because on our comprehensive course, we start on the driving range. We do a little bit of learning, a little bit of doing. So people are moving a lot, but they're also taking in information. But then we have the baby steps of going out onto the course, because then they're like, oh crap, now I actually have to do it. Right? It's not just shooting balls everywhere. So it's a good baby step for taking it off the course. Right. And so we give people homework during our art clinics to be able to take that onto the course if they want on their own time. And by traveling and creating these clinics in different places, we're creating a cohort of people in that community, so that you have others that get it. And it's not about, we're not holding hands, we're not staring at candles, singing Kumbaya or anything. We're not even sharing stories unless somebody wants to share. It's all about personal growth, and we're doing it together as a team. And so it's really neat. But then they can tap into each other after I leave, and they can work together. And because we take notes, we're writing notes, and then we miss something, right? So if you have your battle buddies that you're there with, you can be like, hey, what did she say about this? What was that? And they can go through it together, and they can always reach out to me as well. Right?
I think too, like this, even like when we do things like this, it takes a while to actually sink in physically, right? The things that we've learned. And so having that network to then be like, hey, so it's like 3 weeks later, did this happen to you? Did it feel like this for you? And people go, oh yeah. Like that was like 3 days after. Oh, it was like 3 weeks after for me. Oh, like, no, I don't know what you're talking about. And then they call you 3 days later, like, oh, I see it happening. Right. Yeah. So I think that's awesome. And a cohort too of just people then who can also, like, if they start to see those signs and symptoms in their coworkers, to be like, hey, I learned this. Like, let me share a little info with you. Okay, perfect. Then that ripple effect starts to, expand beyond what just the clinics that you're doing. It expands out. And then even if it's just an iota of what was covered in that half-day clinic or in that 2-day clinic, it's being shared. Somebody, somewhere, it's going to resonate with somebody, right? So I love that. So how can we get involved? How can we help? What can I do? Tell me.
So the biggest thing is, like, I set up clinics, but if people don't know about them, then what do you do, right? And so, but if people want clinics, then reach out to me. I don't care if we have 3 or 4 people. If you want a clinic and you have a group of people you want to bring together, let's go make it happen. We'll find a venue, we'll make it happen. And so you can reach out to me. Email super easy. It's Sue, SUE, at Driving Foreward. and driving is normal, but forward is FOREWARD.ca. And so just shoot me an email, say, hey, I'm in Medicine Hat and I'd love this. And even if we could just do a couple half-day clinics for my team, I'll be like, cool, let's figure it out. Cause I'm trying to solidify my schedule. I want to release it by April 1st. And so if anybody wants to reach out, they're more than welcome. And I also have flexibility. So even if it's not on the initial schedule, we can make things work and go from there. So ultimately, like anytime it's military first responders, we're a nonprofit. We don't make any money from it. I don't get paid from it. The only cost is the cost of me getting down there and hosting it. And I like to work with whoever I'm hosting it with to get sponsors so that it's not providing any more barriers for our front line. And we have a ton of different fundraising events to help mitigate that. So, we do have the gala, Alberta First Responders Gala. Driving Foreward is one of the beneficiaries from that gala. We have that coming up, but we also have a variety of golf tournaments. So we have our annual Frontline Appreciation Golf Tournament up in High Level that we have every year. And then we're running our first Frontline Appreciation Tournament down in Leduc this year on July 25th, I believe. And so Driving Forward is going to be a partial beneficiary of that, but we're also going to raise funds for Courageous Companions because that cause is very close to my heart. And so if we can help more military and first responders get out of their houses and have backup in terms of service dogs, then I'd love to help in that sense. So that's going to be down in Leduc as well. And so those are our fundraising, those are our events, and stay tuned for our clinic schedule in April.
I love all of that. So for those of you that are Blue Line followers, that'll be coming out in the newsletter, guys. Just FYI, watch for that. And guaranteed Blue Line will be sponsoring something for this. We'll be sponsoring a whole. I am one of those people that cannot golf to save my fucking life. Like, I can throw the ball further than I can hit it with the golf club. And so usually my golf experience is I will drive the cart and my husband will golf, and I will happily be in the sunshine for 4 hours, driving around, having a couple beers, critiquing. I like to also be the commentator of the golf.
Even though why do you keep putting in the water? Why do you keep doing that?
Nice slicing. Right? Like, I don't know what the fuck I'm saying at all. I have no idea, but I like saying it all. I like being the commentator and the beer cart driver. That's my role in golf. But I think
we'll get you swinging a club.
I was gonna say, but I feel like I will come to one of these and then maybe I will just be like, oh, I can actually hit this ball, because I get so frustrated. That's my side. I get really angry really fast when I'm not good at something. And then I'm like, this is a stupid game. This is stupid. Why are we hitting this stupid white ball? It's fucking stupid. And then my husband gets mad because we're 3 holes in and he's like, I am done with your bullshit. And I'm like, fine, I'll be in the fucking cart drinking a beer. Shut the fuck up. Nice fucking slice there, bud.
Yeah, no, for sure.
But yeah, we will definitely, Blue Line will definitely be, I am all over this. I think this is amazing. I love how you're incorporating it with an athletic mindset too, because a lot of us are first responders. Majority of us come from an athletic background of some sort. Mm-hmm. We're a team sport, individual sport. We do something. Maybe we did it years ago and we haven't done it for a while, but like coming back to activity, coming back to sport, coming back to that athletic mindset. Again, that sports psychology side of things. It is huge. It is huge. And it's huge for like at work, but it's also huge for like off-duty work, because you have to have, and I've talked about this a million times and I'll continue to preach it like fucking crazy through my podcast. You have to have something else besides your job to go to. And it can't just be your family, because then you become hyper obsessive on your family, or you become hyper obsessive on work, or you become hyper obsessive on both of those things. And there is no other outlet. You have to have something beyond work and home that you can go and do. And it might not be athletic. It might be that you like fucking woodworking. It might be that you like painting. It might be that you like fucking fishing. Whatever it is, you have to have something, because otherwise your entire identity gets wrapped up in that job, in that role, and you very quickly become burnt out and you lose the rest of yourself. And so the fact that this brings it back to athletic mindset, outside activities, fresh air, moving your body, breathing, being aware, being physically aware of your surroundings. There's just so many good things that are coming from that. So yeah, I love it. Okay. We are like way over time, but I don't care because we've had so much good stuff. But I'm going to wrap up. I'm just going to ask you one rapid fire question. I don't want our listeners to get too bogged down in this, but one rapid fire question. What is your favorite food or snack while you're on the golf course?
While I'm on the golf course? Well,
yes.
That's if my kids haven't stole it from me first. I like a good trail mix. I'll go and get that giant bag of trail mix from Costco.
Yes.
And I have to divvy it up into different bags and hide one from the kids because otherwise they'll just eat it all or spill it so that all the birds get fed and I don't. But no, that's I can eat handfuls of that. It's so good and probably need to put a lot more portions in there than I should. But yeah, no, that's a go-to and it's quick and easy. So I love it.
You're speaking my language because I have to do the same thing because my kids, if I bring home a bag of it, it's gone in a day and a half. The whole fucking thing is gone. I have 3 girls too. Gone. Or they go through because now the Costco one has started adding peanut M&Ms and regular M&Ms.
Oh yeah.
And so
all of a sudden all I have is nuts and raisins.
They'll just leave me the fucking raisins. And I'm like, excuse me, when did I buy a bag of fucking raisins? I have a bag of trail mix. Where's the fucking trail mix? This is raisins. And then they're like, oh yeah, Mom, we don't really like the raisins. And I'm like,
no, you grab a handful and you fucking eat it. Yes. That's how that works. Yes. You get what you get.
Yeah. So yeah, I believe it. I buy 2 bags. One is their bag and one is my hidden snack stash bag that I have to literally hide from them. Otherwise it's gone or there's raisins left. So yeah, I get you. I love it. I absolutely love it. That's fantastic. Well, it's been a treat today. Again, you've shared such great information, such great, just again, authentic vulnerability and all of the things that you've gone through and all of the advocacy that you tried to do for yourself and for your team and for your members and for your staff, and that you still never gave up, right? Even when you were faced with shut down, you just still kept trying. And for me, that's resiliency. That's trying to continue to heal and get better. And so now taking it beyond and trying to share all of that with everybody it's just inspiring. So thank you for the work that you do. Thank you for the service with the RCMP. Again, greatly appreciate that. And any last words for our listeners?
Well, if anybody wants to, watch the incredible stories of Willow, it is Salty Sarge and her service dog on TikTok and some various, and I've been told multiple times that Facebook is dying. It's for old people. But it is on there as well and Instagram and yeah. So, and then if they want to follow Driving Forward, shocker, there's a bunch of overlap between the two, but Driving Forward on all the social medias as well. So I put different videos up there as much as I can. I've been focusing a lot on my master's degree the past few months and my family traveling to see my mom. So it's been a little bit less, but as the grass comes out from underneath the snow, you'll see a lot more of those again. So
love it. And we'll put all that in the show notes too, as well as I'd love to throw in a link, obviously, to your website and to Courageous Companions, because I think that that's a really great resource again for people that are out there looking. If you are maybe in the same position that Sue was and you don't really know where to turn and you know that a service dog is kind of what you're leaning towards, we'll definitely put that all in the show notes. If you are interested in that, check there. Those websites and those handles will be in there.
There are precedents for being active duty and having a service dog. So don't think that you have to be retired. The precedents have been set. I set one so that I could have my service dog while in uniform. And there's also other municipal police forces that have active duty road sergeants with service dogs. So if they need any resources in regards to that, the path has been set. It was a hard one, but it's really hard for people to say no when organizations have already said yes previously. So
love that. Okay, well, we will end on that note. Have a wonderful rest of your day.
thank you.
Well, that's it for today, folks. Thanks so much for tuning in, listening, giving me your time, your energy, and your attention. I completely appreciate it. Make sure you check out our next episode with another badass female first responder anywhere you get your favorite podcasts. And follow us on Instagram and Facebook at bluelinefitnesstesting.com. I hope you stay safe, keep your head on a swivel, and watch your six.